Hey everybody, welcome back to another Judgment commentary of Kaguya-sama, Love is War, but today we're going to be checking out episode 5. But last time in episode 4, Kaguya and Miyuki dressed up like cats in preparation for the exchange program with the French school that they're setting up. Yes, that is what happened. The French are only second to Japan in terms of their affinity for cosplay. So they had to do their best Neko girl impressions so they could wow them at the welcoming party. And they very nearly avoided an awkward photo of them dressed up like cats face to face spreading across the internet. And then in the next segment we had one of the most grounded scenarios we've had yet of Kaguya just being all anxious about having to text Miyuki first, and she would rather he be the one to make the first move on that. But then her maid gave her a good idea to, instead of texting him, just call him first, but that resulted in something interesting. That interesting thing being that we got a very brief introduction to Miyuki's father. We didn't get to see him say or do too much, but one thing I have to immediately make note of is that Miyuki's dad shares a voice actor with a very, very prominent character. None other than the time-stopping vampire Zawarudo himself, Dio. Yes, Miyuki's dad shares a voice actor with Dio. It was a little easy to tell, in hindsight, hearing it, because, yeah, only that guy could produce voice work like that. I mean, that deep, intimidating tone is iconic. And then we actually got the welcoming party for the French exchange students, and, well, it seemed like what was going to be weird was that Miyuki doesn't speak French, so he couldn't exactly hold down a conversation with them. But turns out that actually worked to his advantage because the principal decided to set up a little test for Miyuki. He wanted to just see if he still had what it takes to be a part of the school. So he sent in the vice president of the French student council in to just lash out at him with verbal abuse right to his face to see how he would respond. But of course, she speaks French and not Japanese, so Miyuki didn't understand a word she said, and neither did I. I wonder if she was actually saying things in French that were, sincerely really bad. I mean, I'd have no way of knowing. It wasn't subtitled, so if any of you out there speak French, maybe you can tell me. Although it might be a little hard to hear because it was being obscured by the narrator. But of course, Kaguya hears Miyuki being lashed at in French, and she doesn't know that Miyuki doesn't speak French, so she stands up for him and starts lashing out at her as well. Also in French. And in fact, apparently she lashed out at her so bad that she just was defeated by it entirely. She had to just take off out of sheer terror. So yeah, dang, good work, Kaguya. So yeah, good times were had by all, but let's get right ahead into episode 5. I assume. It looked like he was playing like a Nintendo DS or something back there, but and the headphones. So yeah, they've set him up now. We're gonna see him soon. Good. I've been waiting too long for that one. May I point out that this beginning scene had almost nothing to do with anything other than setting up that it's summer. And then just a quick little shot of her, staring down in jealousy. That aside, I did like the characterization we got for Miyuki, that he's not innately talented in the ways of sports, But that's the kind of thing you'd expect, someone as intelligent and intuitive as him. That, yeah, he's not as rounded out in the physical sense, but it is still a thing that even though he sucked royally at it at the beginning, his reflexes were so garbage that he smacked himself in the back of the head instead of hitting the ball. But through a week of diligent training with the help of the great Detective Chika, he managed to become a dang pro. Or at least fairly decent. Anyway, here's what it says in that huge text bubble, which there was no chance I was going to be able to read. Player Shirogane seems to have played a big part in the win. It was almost like he was an oriental witch. Or should I say, wizard. Or I guess if you wanted to correct witch, you could say warlock, but whatever. There was a lot of fuss about it after the match, so I'd like to ask you, Fujiwara Chika, the one who coached him, they were aware that she coached him, for your thoughts. How about it? Would you two together be the driving force for the volleyball scene here? at Shuchin. That's how you say that, right? What are your thoughts? That she's never gonna do it ever again because it was insanely arduous. Although, to be fair, it wouldn't be as tough for anybody else. It was just a massive uphill battle for Miyuki specifically. He sucked at it worse than anybody else realistically would. It's only again through his sheer diligence and hard work that he managed to become so good at it. It's what got him here in the first place. But you can't discount her teaching skills and her diligence, managing to stay with him that entire time as well when he sucked that bad. You gotta hand it to her there. And of course, the Battle of Wits at the end with oh no, I forgot my umbrella. That was good. It continues the trend of it being Kaguya who just continues to mastermind these circumstances to have happen. It's not usually Miyuki who sets up these kind of things. Usually he only thinks to take advantage of it on the fly once Kaguya has set it up. Because in the end, that's really what the dynamic of this is. It's that Kaguya really wants to make him confess, and he just really doesn't want to confess. It's not really a two-way street as much. It's not like he's trying to make her confess as much. He's still trying to, but he's doing it more opportunistically, whereas Kaguya is actively setting this stuff up. She's way more dedicated to it than him. But still, as always happens, right when she's about to claim a win, or when he's about to claim a win, Fujiwara gets in between it and just makes it a win-win, or a draw. Maybe even the occasional lose-lose. And now folks, it's that time again for another heart-pounding edition of Overanalyzing Fictional Relationship Advice. The first bit that Kaguya unintentionally gives, about finding a good thing about a person, and then as you spend more time with them, gradually find more and more things you like about them, is, 101. It's basics for this kind of thing. The more time you spend around somebody, the more you get to know them, the more you'll find things you like about them, or maybe even things that you don't like about them. You get to know them better. And as she says, you'll fall more deeply in love gradually. It's pretty paramount to making a healthy relationship, just getting to know them first before things become too serious. Now, she only let that little bit of advice slip, and she was really just describing her own circumstance, but if looked at through the lens of advice, it is given a definite A. Then we get to the bit that Fujiwara gave, just picturing them being lovey-dovey with somebody else, and gauging how you feel about that. While jealousy is a negative emotion, maybe not one you'd want to necessarily focus on, it can be useful early on in trying to see how you feel, because that was her problem, is that she didn't really know how she felt about him. She didn't dislike him, and she did kind of like him, so she was, willing to go along with it, but she wasn't sure how she really felt. So trying to imagine if she saw him with somebody else, and then seeing how she feels about it, is effective, at the very least. It can give you a new perspective on them that you hadn't considered. Not especially harmful, and it can be useful for perspective, like I said, so I think I'll give it a C+. Next, we get to Kaguya's actual piece of advice that she gave, which she referred to as the Romeo and Juliet effect, in that Romeo and Juliet fell in love because of the obstacles that were between them, that they faced a common enemy, and it grew their bond. Now, just knowing Romeo and Juliet and the actual themes and events of the story here, I would say giving somebody advice based around Romeo and Juliet would actually be pretty bad. Because despite the fact that most people look at them as this beacon of romance, their relationship was not very healthy. Their love was more akin to obsession and was really more about the fact that they could not have one another. It was the taboo elements of it. I mean, we all know how that story ended. Not good for anybody. So if I just looked at it from that perspective, F. Except that's not what she meant. Her point was not about really Romeo and Juliet specifically. It was more so their uniting against a common enemy thing. But really, a more realistic takeaway from that Romeo and Juliet effect is finding a common interest, finding something that you're both commonly passionate about, something to unite towards. And in their case, they were both very passionate about charity. They both wanted to improve society through kindly donation. And from that point of view, finding things that you're both interested in and passionate about is also highly important. It is also something that can make great foundations for a relationship. So from that point of view, it's the exact opposite from looking at it literally. And that will give it an A as well. Whew, now that was some real overanalyzing there, wasn't it? Anyway, I think that's all I got for now, guys, but thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like and a comment if you enjoyed. Subscribe to be updated on more. That would be great. Next time we got episode 6, and it looks like we might finally be introduced to that one dude who we've seen kinda crouching off in the background on occasion, and of course, notably, in the intro, but, well, now we got a little brief look at him as they walked by. Looks to be a gamer of some capacity. But yeah, definitely had a good time with this one. I think this is one of the best episodes yet, if you ask me. Just genuinely had a good time. And I hope you guys did as well, but until we meet again, I will see you guys later!